The small human ship, Endeavour, floated near the edges of the galaxy. Captain Jin Mu-Han, a man in his late 30s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, leaned back in his chair, staring at the holographic display. It showed a massive fleet of unknown ships moving toward them. Captain, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Mira Patel, said, her voice tight with worry. "They're hailing us. Should we respond?" Han nodded. "Let's hear what they want." The transmission crackled to life. A tall alien with sharp, silver armor appeared on the screen. His voice was cold, and his golden eyes burned with arrogance. "This is Admiral Tyran Vox of the Galactic Empire," the alien declared. "You have entered Imperial space without permission. Surrender your vessel immediately, or face destruction." Patel shot Han a nervous glance. "What do we do, sir?" Han smirked, leaning forward. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The captain tapped a button, activating their side of the communication. "This is Captain Jin Mu-Han of the Endeavour, representing the Stellar Coalition of Earth. First off, your Imperial space doesn't seem to have any signs or boundaries. Second, we're not here to start trouble. So how about you lower your weapons, and we can have a nice chat?" Admiral Vox's lip curled in disgust. "Chat? Primitive species like yours are not worthy of dialogue. You will surrender, or you will be annihilated. This is your only warning." Han chuckled softly. "You've got a lot of ships, I'll give you that. But here's the thing." He paused, letting the tension build. "You really don't know what you're dealing with, do you?" Without waiting for a response, Han ended the call and turned to his crew. "Status on the quantum drives?" he asked. "They're charged," Paddle replied, her confidence returning. "But we can't outrun them for long, sir." Han grinned. "We don't need to outrun them. We just need to make them look stupid." The Endeavour was a small exploration ship designed for speed and stealth rather than combat. Against the Imperial fleet, dozens of enormous warships bristling with weapons, it stood no chance in a fight. But Han wasn't planning to fight. "Helmsman," he ordered, "plot a course through the asteroid field behind us. Make it look like we're panicking." The pilot nodded, steering the ship toward the jagged rocks. As expected, the Imperial fleet followed, their ships moving with mechanical precision. Admiral Vox watched the human ship flee, a cruel smile on his face. "Fools," he muttered. "They think they can escape." The Imperial ships entered the asteroid field, their shields deflecting smaller debris, but they didn't notice the subtle energy spikes around them. Han had dropped a series of drones disguised as asteroids. "Now," Han said. The drones activated, emitting electromagnetic pulses that scrambled the Imperial fleet's sensors. Their massive ships, built for overwhelming firepower, suddenly lost their targeting systems and navigational controls. On board the Endeavour, the crew erupted in cheers as they watched the chaos unfold. Imperial ships crashed into asteroids or each other, their pilots struggling to regain control. "Send them a goodbye message," Han instructed. Patel grinned and typed a quick message. Moments later, the Imperials received a short, mocking transmission. "Thanks for the warm welcome. See you around, if you can catch us." With that, the Endeavour activated its quantum drives and disappeared into the void, leaving the battered Imperial fleet in its wake. Admiral Vox stood in the wreckage of his bridge, his fists clenched in rage. "Track them," he bellowed at his crew. "I want to know where they came from, who they are, and how they dared to humiliate us." But even as his officers scrambled to obey, Vox couldn't shake the feeling that this primitive species might be more dangerous than they seemed. Meanwhile, on the Endeavour, Han leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. "That went better than I expected," he said. Patel chuckled. "You think they'll come after us, sir?" "Oh, they will," Han replied. "And when they do, we'll be ready." The Endeavour sped through space, the stars blurring into streaks of light as Captain Han and his crew made their way back to human-controlled territory. They'd made a bold move, embarrassing the Galactic Empire, but Han knew the Empire would not forget the insult. As the ship entered a quieter part of space, Lieutenant Patel spoke up. "Captain, we're picking up an Imperial fleet coming our way. Looks like they've set a course straight for Earth." Han's eyes narrowed. "I thought we might get a visit. Contact Fleet Command. It's time for us to make our stand." Back at the Stellar Coalition's command center, Fleet Admiral Elena Carter stood over a map of the galaxy. The Imperial fleet's size was massive. 20 warships, each one larger than a city. But Carter didn't look worried. Her eyes glinted with a mix of determination and excitement. "Prepare the fleet," she said. "We'll meet them in the Orion sector. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The plan was simple. Use their knowledge of the terrain, their speed, and their ability to think on their feet. The Galactic Empire relied on overwhelming force and a rigid command structure. The humans would fight like no one had ever seen before. The Imperial fleet arrived, their ships casting long shadows over the vastness of space. Admiral Tyran Vox stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominion, watching as the human fleet appeared in the distance. The humans had no idea what they were about to face. "Target their lead ship," Vox ordered. "Destroy it in one shot. Show them that their tricks won't work here." The Imperial ships unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, aimed directly at the Endeavor. But Han, ever the strategist, had anticipated this move. He'd ordered the Endeavor to veer to the right at the last moment, and the first wave of plasma shots missed. "Get ready," Han said, his voice calm. "Helmsman, take us into the asteroid field. We'll fight them on our terms." The crew quickly sprang into action, maneuvering the ship between massive asteroids, dodging Imperial shots. The enemy fleet was fast, but not fast enough to follow them through the treacherous field. "Sir," Lieutenant Patel said, her voice tense, "they're trying to flank us from both sides." Han didn't flinch. "That's exactly what we want. Helm, execute the counterstrike." The Endeavor made a sharp turn, sending it on a collision course with an Imperial destroyer that had split off from the main fleet. At the last second, the Endeavor turned again, narrowly avoiding the Imperial ship, which smashed into one of the asteroids. The destroyer exploded in a fiery burst, its remains scattering into space. The Imperial fleet was now in chaos. They hadn't expected humans to be able to maneuver in such a difficult environment. The Empire's ships, though powerful, were built for dominance in open space, not in the tight, unpredictable asteroid fields. "This is madness," Admiral Vox shouted, watching as his ships were slowly picked off one by one. "How are they doing this?" He turned to his tactical officer. "Get me a report on their ship's capabilities." The officer hesitated. "Their ship is small, but it's equipped with technology we've never seen before. Their AI is adaptive, and their maneuvering abilities far exceed ours in these conditions." Vox's face grew pale. "This cannot be happening. A primitive race like this, beating us." Back on the Endeavor, Han and his crew moved quickly, switching between evasive maneuvers and attacks that crippled the Imperial fleet's ability to fight back. The smaller human ships, much more agile than the hulking Imperial warships, moved through the battlefield like ghosts, appearing and disappearing with the ease of a shadow. "Time for the final move," Han said, a grin spreading across his face. "Release the drones." The Endeavor released a series of small, cloaked drones into the area. These drones were equipped with small EMP devices designed to disable the Imperial ship's electronics. As soon as the drones were in position, they sent out pulses that scrambled the Empire's systems, knocking their shields offline and causing their weapons to malfunction. With their control systems compromised, the Imperial ships were easy targets. One by one, they were forced to retreat, leaving a few damaged but still intact ships in their wake. Vox, beaten and humiliated, ordered a retreat back to Imperial space. "Captain," Patel said, her voice full of disbelief, "we did it. They're retreating." Han leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. "They'll be back," he said. "But when they do, we'll be ready." As the Endeavor sailed away, curious once again, the crew couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had fought against the largest, most powerful empire in the galaxy, and won. It wasn't just a victory in battle. It was a statement to the universe that humanity wasn't to be underestimated. The battle at the Orion sector had shaken the Galactic Empire to its core. The humans, a species thought to be nothing more than a nuisance, had humiliated one of the Empire's finest commanders. Admiral Vox, now disgraced, had returned to Imperial space with his tail between his legs, and the whole Empire was in an uproar. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Elena Carter stood at the center of a crowded command room, eyes fixed on a holographic map of the galaxy. The Endeavor had returned, and its crew was safe, but their actions had sent ripples through the galaxy. Earth was no longer the quiet, unassuming planet it once was. "We need to prepare," Carter said, her voice sharp and clear. "The Empire won't let this go. They'll be back, and they'll come at us with everything they've got." The crew of the Endeavor had already begun repairs and upgrades, but Han knew that this victory was just the beginning. The Galactic Empire had immense resources at its disposal. It was only a matter of time before they retaliated. "We need to make sure they can't just steamroll us next time," Han said as he walked into the briefing room. "The next battle won't be in an asteroid field. We need a plan, and we need it fast." Admiral Carter nodded. "We've been working on a strategy. The Empire's biggest weakness is their arrogance. They assume that their way of doing things is the only way. They're predictable." "Predictable is good for us," Han replied with a grin. "We'll use that against them." In the Galactic Empire's capital, Emperor Cylon stood on the balcony of his palace, watching the stars. His eyes burned with fury, but also with a deep sense of pride. The Empire had ruled for millennia. What were these humans compared to the power of the Empire? "They humiliated us," Vox said, entering the room. His uniform was disheveled, and his face was pale. "But they won't get away with it. I've analyzed their tactics. We can crush them." The Emperor's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "I've heard enough of your excuses, Vox. The Empire has been insulted, and I expect results. Prepare the Doombringer. We'll strike at Earth with our most powerful weapon. Show them the might of the Empire." The Doombringer was a massive warship, more than 10 times the size of the Endeavor, and equipped with a planet-destroying superweapon. It had never been used in battle, and Emperor Cylon believed that its mere presence would be enough to break humanity's spirit. Back on Earth, Han and Carter's teams worked tirelessly to devise a countermeasure. As the Doombringer slowly made its way toward the solar system, the humans knew they had little time. The weapon was powerful, but it was also slow, and it relied on traditional Imperial tactics, something that worked well against weaker species, but not against the resourceful humans. "We need to create a diversion," Han said, pointing at the map. "Something that will keep the Empire's focus on one area while we hit them where it hurts." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting we use a decoy?" "Exactly," Han said with a smirk. "A few ships to draw their attention, but the real strike will come from behind their lines. We'll hack into their systems and turn their own weapon against them." The plan was risky. If they failed, the Empire's superweapon would wipe out Earth in seconds. But Han had confidence in his crew, and he knew that their creativity and ability to think outside the box would be their greatest asset. As the Doombringer approached, the humans set their trap in motion. A small fleet of human ships, including the Endeavor, created a diversion on the far side of the solar system. The Imperial fleet, expecting a full-scale engagement, shifted their focus entirely on this threat. Meanwhile, Han led a stealth mission deep into the heart of the Imperial fleet. Using cloaking devices and advanced hacking software, the humans managed to infiltrate the Doombringer systems. Han and his team worked quickly, navigating through the massive warship's corridors. "We're almost there," Han said, as the final security system fell. Now, let's see how they like their own medicine. With a few keystrokes, the human team disabled the Empire's superweapon and turned its targeting systems against the Doombringer itself. The ship's weapon fired, only it didn't destroy Earth. Instead, it obliterated the Doombringer, sending the massive ship into a deadly spiral. The Imperial fleet watched in shock as their most powerful weapon was destroyed from within. Panic spread, and before they could react, the human fleet closed in, dealing devastating blows to the remaining Imperial ships. On the bridge of the Doombringer, Admiral Vok watched as the massive warship collapsed into a cloud of debris. He sank into his chair, speechless. Back on Earth, Admiral Carter and Captain Han stood side by side, watching the Imperial fleet retreat. "It worked," Carter said, her voice filled with disbelief. "We've done it." Han nodded, a slight smile on his face. "Don't count them out just yet. They'll come back. But when they do, we'll be ready." The victory at the Doombringer had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Humanity had not only survived the Empire's assault, but had destroyed their greatest weapon. Earth was now the talk of the galaxy, no longer the quiet, insignificant planet it once was. But despite the victory, Captain Han and Admiral Carter knew that the Empire was far from defeated. The Galactic Empire, with its vast resources and powerful fleet, wasn't going to let a few defeats stop them. They would return, stronger and angrier. Humanity had proven it could fight back, but now it was time to turn the tide of the war. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Carter said, her eyes focused on the tactical map. "The Empire's power lies in its control of resources. If we can cripple their supply lines, we can weaken them enough to turn the war in our favor." Han nodded, already planning their next move. "We've taken down their flagship. Now we hit them at the heart of their supply chains. If we can cut off their resources, they'll have no choice but to retreat." The humans' next target was an Imperial supply base, hidden deep within a distant star system. It was heavily guarded, and intelligence reports suggested that it was crucial to the Empire's war effort. The mission was dangerous, but Han knew it was their best shot at turning the war in their favor. As the Endeavor and a small fleet of human ships approached the Imperial base, the crew prepared for the mission. The atmosphere aboard the ship was tense. They had succeeded before, but this mission felt different. They were no longer just defending themselves. They were going on the offensive. "Let's make sure we're ready for anything," Han said to his crew. "We've got one shot at this. Don't let me down." Lieutenant Patel, always calm under pressure, checked the weapon systems. "All systems are go, Captain. We're ready." "We'll make our move under the cover of the asteroid belt," Han said. "That'll give us some time to get close before they notice us. Once we're in range, we strike fast and hard." The plan was risky. The asteroid belt was dense, and one wrong move could mean their destruction. But Han had seen the Empire's arrogance firsthand. He knew they wouldn't expect an attack so close to their supply base. The human ships silently entered the asteroid belt, their cloaking systems activated. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the engines and the occasional rumble of asteroid collisions. Then, the first Imperial ship appeared on the radar, a massive dreadnought, the flagship of the base's defense force. It moved slowly, unaware of the approaching humans. "We've got them right where we want them," Han said, his voice steady. "Prepare for attack." At his command, the Endeavor and the small human fleet burst from the shadows of the asteroid belt. The Imperial ships, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The human fleet struck first, targeting weak points in the Imperial ship's armor and shields. The battle was fierce. Explosions filled the void as human ships dodged enemy fire, weaving between asteroids with incredible speed. The Imperials, though powerful, were slow to react. They had never faced such unconventional tactics before. "This is madness," an Imperial officer shouted on one of the ships, watching as their defenses crumbled. "How are they doing this? How can they move so quickly?" Admiral Vaux, who had been overseeing the defense of the supply base, watched in disbelief as his fleet was torn apart. The humans had done it again. This time, they weren't just fighting to survive. They were attacking with purpose. Vox clenched his fists in rage. They're too clever. But this ends now. He activated the station's final line of defense. A massive energy cannon mounted at the heart of the supply base. The cannon was capable of destroying an entire fleet with a single shot. Han saw the cannon powering up on his screen. "They're going to fire that thing," he muttered. "All ships, fall back." The humans quickly retreated, using the asteroid field as cover. The cannon fired, but it missed, striking a nearby asteroid instead. The resulting explosion rocked the area, but the humans had already evaded the blast. "We're not done yet," Han said, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "We've still got a few tricks up our sleeves." The Endeavour and its fleet regrouped. Han knew the time had come for the final blow. He activated the fleet's cloaking devices again and slipped past the remaining Imperial defenses. In the heart of the supply base, the humans launched a series of missiles that hit key fuel and supply depots, triggering a chain reaction. The supply base exploded in a massive fireball, sending debris and shattered ships flying in all directions. Admiral Voq watched in horror as the base he had sworn to protect was reduced to nothing but ashes. The Imperial fleet was in disarray. With no supplies and no support, they had no choice but to retreat. As the human fleet made its way back to Earth, Han felt a sense of triumph. This victory wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about showing the Empire that humanity would never back down. "We've turned the tide," Han said to his crew, a smile creeping across his face. "The Empire is on the run, and we're just getting started." Admiral Carter stood beside him, her eyes bright with determination. "This is only the beginning. Now we finish what we started." The battle against the Galactic Empire had been long and hard, but humanity had come a long way. Captain Han and Admiral Carter's leadership, combined with the creativity and bravery of the human fleet, had dealt the Empire a series of crushing blows. The once mighty Imperial war machine was starting to show cracks, and the humans weren't about to let up. However, even as the Empire retreated from their failed attempts to crush Earth, the tension was palpable. The Empire wasn't going to simply give up. They would come back, stronger and more determined to avenge their losses. "We've proven we can beat them," Han said, standing in front of his crew aboard the Endeavour. "But don't think for a second that they've forgotten about us. They'll come again, and we need to be ready." Admiral Carter stood beside him, her face hard with determination. "They may think they're invincible, but humanity's strength isn't just in our technology. It's in our will to survive and our ability to adapt." It was only a matter of time before the Empire returned. The humans had made their mark, but the final battle was yet to come. Back in the heart of the Galactic Empire, Emperor Silence seethed with rage. His fleet had been humiliated by the humans time and time again, and this time he was determined to end the conflict once and for all. "This time, we will crush them," Silent growled. "We will not let a primitive species make fools of us. Prepare the Emperor's wrath." The Emperor's wrath was a ship like no other, larger, more powerful, and more heavily armed than anything the Empire had ever built. It was equipped with the most advanced weapon systems, including a new type of energy cannon that could annihilate entire cities in a single blast. The Emperor believed that this ship would be the key to finally breaking humanity's spirit. The final confrontation was approaching. The human fleet had been reinforced, with new ships, new weapons, and new strategies. Earth was ready, but it would take everything they had to survive what was coming. As the Emperor's wrath approached Earth's orbit, Han and his crew stood at their posts aboard the Endeavour. The tension was thick, the air heavy with the knowledge that this battle would determine the fate of humanity. "This is it," Han said, his voice steady. "The Empire is bringing everything they've got, but we've got something they don't." Admiral Carter looked at him, her expression firm. "We've got the element of surprise. We know them better than they know themselves." The fleet moved into position, hiding in the shadow of Earth's moon. The Emperor's wrath was coming in fast, its massive form blocking out the stars as it neared. Han's plan was simple: use their agility and unpredictability against the Empire's overwhelming force. The human fleet would hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep them guessing. The first shots were fired before the Empire even knew what hit them. Human ships darted out from the moon's shadow, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy blasts at the Emperor's wrath. The Empire's flagship returned fire, but the humans were already retreating, weaving through space like shadows. The battle was fierce. The Emperor's wrath fired its new energy cannon, but the humans had anticipated it. They dodged, weaving between asteroids and debris, forcing the Empire's flagship to waste its shots. "We've got their attention," Han said, his eyes focused on the battle unfolding before him. "Now, let's finish this." The Endeavor and its fleet raced toward the Empire's flagship. The humans were outnumbered, but they weren't afraid. They knew their strength wasn't in numbers. It was in their ingenuity, their quick thinking, and their relentless spirit. As the Endeavor closed in on the Emperor's wrath, Han gave the order: deploy the drones. Small, cloaked drones shot out from the Endeavor, heading straight for the heart of the Empire's flagship. They were carrying EMP devices designed to disable the ship's energy systems. The drones slipped through the enemy's defenses, and with a precise strike, they triggered a series of electrical failures that left the Emperor's wrath vulnerable. The Endeavor took its shot, firing its main cannon at the weak point in the flagship's hull. The blast hit dead center, ripping through the Emperor's wrath and causing a massive explosion that sent debris scattering in every direction. Admiral Cylon watched in horror as his flagship was destroyed, his face twisted with fury. This cannot be happening. How can they do this? How can they keep beating us? But the battle wasn't over yet. The remaining Imperial ships, desperate to avenge their fallen flagship, charged toward the human fleet. "We've still got a fight on our hands," Carter said, her voice calm. "But we're not backing down." Human ships continued to fight with everything they had. With every blast and maneuver, they proved that they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to protect everything they had built. In the end, the Imperial fleet was forced to retreat, their losses too great to overcome. The humans had done it. They had won the final battle. As the battle ended, Han stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, watching the retreating Imperial ships vanish into the darkness of space. "We've done it," he said quietly. "We've shown them that humanity is not to be underestimated." Admiral Carter nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "The war is over, but this is just the beginning. Humanity will stand tall, no matter who comes next." And as the Endeavor sailed back to Earth, the crew knew that they had proven something far greater than their ability to fight. They had proven that, against all odds, humanity would always rise. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how dark the galaxy seemed, humanity would never back down.